This is Danielle Sanders, interim managing editor of the Chicago Defender. Today, community organizer, activist, and nationally recognized gun violence prevention advocate Kina Collins launches her campaign for Congress. The 30-year-old challenger will take on 24-year incumbent Representative Danny Davis, with the campaign focus on gun safety, health care, and racial justice. Kina previously challenged Representative Davis in the 2020 primary cycle, finishing second in the split four-way race despite spending the least amount of money of all the challengers. Kina is launching her campaign with progressives united behind her. She has the support of local progressive groups, including Women's March Illinois, the Illinois Youth Climate Movement, and 14th Ward IBO. She is also backed by Justice Democrats. She spoke exclusively to the Chicago Defender about why she chose to run again and why there is a need for a new voice in Washington. So I want to kind of start with why you decided to run again.
Yeah, such a good question. This time we did it a little bit different. We ran in the 2020 primary and came in second to Congressman Davis. And I went on, I got offered a really great position as the executive director for the largest gun violence prevention nonprofit in Illinois. And I was taking on the gun lobby, taking on gun manufacturers. And then the residents in my district were really pushing me to run again. And I thought, this is something that you have to take very serious, right? Because to run for Congress means that you're not just impacting the Illinois 7, you're impacting so many districts across the country that look like the Illinois 7 and the country in general. These are folks who vote when we go to war. And so I was kind of going back and forth, and then I launched an exploratory committee. And in the process of me launching that exploratory committee, we were testing the waters, hearing from residents. They were really electrified about me running. And then the Loretto Hospital situation happened. I am a native of the Austin community. And so to see the largest vaccination site shut down due to corruption because of folks jumping in front of the line, when we're talking about grandparents and young people and those with pre-existing conditions who needed the vaccination, not getting the vaccination, it told me a lot about the standing that we are in this very urgent watershed moment. As you know, Austin is the largest neighborhood in Chicago. It is the blackest neighborhood in Chicago. And so urgent crises requires urgent leadership. And so I'm throwing my hat back into the ring.
I love it. One of the things that I've noticed, just a lot has happened since the last time you ran. We've had a pandemic, we've had increased gun violence, we've had a change in leadership as far as our government. So much has actually changed, and it's really highlighted the disparities across the board. To me, I feel like it just pulled the cover back. And what we're seeing is a lot of young progressives coming and stepping up to the challenge and going to leaders who have been in power for 20 plus some odd years, like Congressman Davis, and saying, you know what, it's time to bring some new energy and new blood into our government. Is that a huge motivating factor for you when deciding that you wanted to run, bringing something new?
Yeah, I think it's a, really good segue. For me, I've lived in this district my entire life, but most importantly, and to the topic that you just brought up, I'm a gun violence prevention advocate. We've been calling for the scaling of these public health models for years, housing equality and closing the pay wage equity gap, investment in infrastructure, pulling the lead out of the piping. We've been saying this for years because we know that violence is not just someone pulling a trigger, that it's cyclical. A lot of the times it's retaliatory, and a lot of the times it exists and manifests itself in the community in a multitude of ways. And so, yes, I don't think that, for me, new leadership and fresh faces doesn't just mean millennial. It means political outsider. It means people who are parents. It means folks who are concerned in the community and who are letting us know that the status quo is not working for us. And so I am not oblivious to the progressive history of Congressman Davis. I'm very much aware of it. But when you've been in Washington for 24 years, you become a part of this system. And so for me and the campaign that I'm running, we're putting the system on trial as well. We're saying that this is the people's seat. I'm running for the people's house. And if it's the people's seat and it's the people's house, the people should have a say in different options across this district. And then finally, you know, I am a survivor. I'm a public policy expert, but most importantly, I'm a leader and I'm a problem solver. And that's what this district deserves.
So what are your top priorities that you're running on?
Yeah. So as a gun violence prevention advocate and someone who's been in that movement for the last 10 years, that's one of my first priorities. As you highlighted, our entire district in Illinois 7 is very unique because we hold all of the Cook County, basically covers Illinois 7. Not all of the Cook County, but Illinois 7 is all of Cook County. And so we saw 900 homicides last year, and I think 760 plus of those were gun related. And so we know that we need to invest in not just punitive measures around gun violence. We have to strike at the root causes. That means investing in wraparound services. That means investing in trauma-informed care. That means building out a strong local economy to provide opportunities. The average age of a homicide victim in the city of Chicago, which is the broadest swath of the district, is between the ages of 18 and 29. So these are our young people, right? And if we don't get a hold of these young people, we'll continue to see an increase in carjackings and gun violence. And so I believe in banning assault rifles on the federal level, universal background checks, but that's not what we're dealing with in communities like ours. We're dealing with handguns. We're dealing with straw purchases. We're dealing with building really great policies and having guns float into our state from Indiana, Wisconsin, and other places. And so we have to organize on the ground level and then bring that energy back to the congressional chambers. But overarching, really immediately in my first 100 days, once I'm elected, I want to put an aggressive policy or initiative forward where we put a life expectancy and healthcare task force together. Illinois 7 comprises of Streeterville, which is downtown, and Englewood, right? And it holds the largest life expectancy gap. And Streeterville, as you know, the average life expectancy is 90 and Englewood is 60. And we know it's because of the social determinants. I want to put a panel of experts together from the public health arena, professors, young people, activists, and we need to come together, come up with the recommendations that we need. And then I'm going to go to Congress and fight for those federal resources to be brought back to the Illinois 7 and to implement those. And then the final thing is we ultimately need to make sure that we're identifying those opportunity zones, particularly in the Black and brown enclaves of the district, to make sure that we are rebuilding those small business owners and minority business owners that got ravaged in COVID. And so we're seeing a complete wipeout of the diversity in small business owners in our district. And so I want to make sure that we're protecting them as well. So I would say economic and economy, healthcare, and then gun violence.
And one of the questions I had is when I talk to him about politics and government, he's always kind of giving me a side eye. You know, there's a mistrust when it comes to our elected officials, particularly by that segment of the voter population. And when you're dealing with a race, particularly like this one, where you are going against somebody who has been part of the system for so long, how do you bring in those younger, newer voters who are still kind of looking at politicians like, does anything really change, or does it matter? What would you say to people like my 19-year-old?
Well, first of all, we got to go to your 19-year-old. One of the critiques that I've had and criticisms of the Democratic Party in particular is that we haven't built out the scope of who we need to be targeting in these races. And so while the emphasis in the last Democratic National Convention was flipping Republican voters to Democrat, that's not our swing vote. Our swing vote is turning non-voters into voters. We saw from the election that only 6% of Republicans voted with Democrats. And once again, suburban white women voted with Republicans. So what does that mean? That means that the direction of the Democratic Party is working class, and we need to be pushing those working class values to the forefront. But really, we need to be speaking to the issues that matter to young people. Young people are being sold a bill of goods to go to college and then be straddled in student loan debt once they get out. Young people are concerned about the environment because this is the planet that's going to be left for us. But most importantly, they're also concerned about the violence. A lot of what we have to do is modernize the way that we're looking at the solutions to these problems. We know, and I'm pretty sure your 19-year-old will tell you, a lot of the social media beefs that happen manifest themselves on the streets in Chicago. When we talk about drill music and some of the rappers and artists who come out of Chicago, just trace it back a lot to the music and the social media. And the fact that we don't have young people in office to offer these solutions or creative and innovative ideas about how we should be tackling very urgent and pressing issues for young people is the reason why young people are not engaged. They don't feel heard. And most importantly, we're not being elected, so they don't feel seen. And if I don't see someone who looks like me or sounds like me, I don't trust it. And to be quite honest, there's a lot of validity to the mistrust in government. I go back to the Loretto Hospital situation. This was pretty much should have been a home run. It was very clear that the guidelines were put for certain phases of people, the most at-risk people getting the vaccination first, and then everybody else receiving the vaccination. And what happened? Our elected officials who sat on the boards of these hospitals, who are supposed to be advocating for us, they let this occur. And so it's mistrust. It's the mistrust is validated. And that's why on my campaign, we're going to be taking $0 from corporations and corporate PACs. It's important that we build a grassroots base of people to fund this campaign, because that's who I want to be held accountable to.
What else? What else do you want the Chicago Defender readers to know as you launch your campaign?
Yeah, I think that we're in a crucial moment here in the city of Chicago. I think that, as you said, the inequity has been exposed. But most importantly, I think for new leadership stepping into Illinois politics, that it's not just time, it's our responsibility to do that. And that we need to have a succession plan, because your readership has long been African-American folks who live in communities that are most impacted. And so I'm really excited to take up this opportunity and this challenge. I think the district is ready. I'm ready. And we're excited to speak to folks, even if you've never voted before. I want to hear from you.
I cannot thank you enough for coming to the Defender to share this news. I appreciate that so much. We talk about the importance of our media organization. So to have our elected officials and future elected officials come to us, we really appreciate it. We really do.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. And yeah, accountability is the way we say we love our community. Right. Yeah. And so we're gonna hold some folks accountable in this primary. We're gonna get information. Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.